Smoke covered the red sky, burning ships floated in the distance, and the ground shook with the sound of plasma fire. Captain Raylan Ward ran through the ruins of what used to be a city. His armor cracked, his visor broken, but his mind still focused. The war between humans and the Zarathi Empire had lasted for years, and this planet, Alaris IV, was the newest graveyard. He was alone now, his team lost in the chaos, and every breath tasted like metal and dust. As Raylan moved through the wreckage, he heard a soft sound. Not the sound of machines or weapons, but a small trembling cry. He froze, listening again. The sound came from under a piece of broken ship metal. He pushed it aside, his gauntlets shaking from exhaustion. There, beneath the burning wreck, was a small alien child, green skin, silver eyes, shaking with fear. The child was wearing a torn robe with strange markings and a glowing crystal pendant around its neck. Raylan stared, confused. This was a Zarathi child, the same species that had killed millions of humans. Every soldier had been told they were monsters, ruthless and cold, but this child looked no different from any scared little one hiding from war. Her hands trembled as she tried to speak. "Please, help." Her voice broken. Raylan's heart pounded. His orders said no mercy for the enemy, but his humanity said otherwise. He knelt beside her, scanning the area. Enemy signals were closing in. A patrol was sweeping the sector. "Stay quiet," he whispered, placing his damaged rifle on the ground. The child flinched when she saw the human symbol on his chest plate. But when he placed his hand gently on her shoulder, she stopped shaking. He lifted her into his arms. She was light, barely alive, her eyes full of pain and confusion. A sharp noise echoed nearby. Armored boots. Coming fast, Raylan moved behind a fallen column, holding his breath through the dust. He saw 6 Zarathi soldiers, blades drawn, their armor glowing with crimson energy. They were searching for something, and when one of them shouted in their harsh tongue, Raylan realized they were hunting the child. He looked down at her. Her pendant flickered weakly, and she whispered something in her language. Pointing at the soldiers, Raylan didn't understand. But he knew one thing. If they found her, they'd kill her. He couldn't explain why. But his heart made the decision before his brain did. He placed the child behind a fallen engine core, drew his combat knife and waited. The Zarathi patrol scanned the wreckage, their red eyes glowing in the dark smoke. One of them stepped too close, his weapon humming, and Raylan struck. He leaped from the shadows, slamming the knife into the soldier's chest joint. The alien screamed, collapsing, and chaos exploded. Energy blades flashed. Plasma bolts tore through the air, and Raylan fought like a man with nothing left to lose. He took a blade to the shoulder, another to his side, his armor sizzling as pain surged through him. He roared, shoving one enemy into a burning wall, then turned to block another strike. One by one they fell, but so did he. The 8th blade pierced through his chest plate. Throwing him to the ground, he could taste blood in his mouth, and everything began to fade. The last thing he saw was the small alien girl crawling toward him, tears glowing against her green skin. She pressed her small hands to his chest, whispering words he couldn't understand. Her pendant flashed bright, brighter than any star in the burning sky. Before everything went black, silence swallowed the battlefield, except for the soft hum of the pendant's light, still glowing over the fallen soldier's heart. Hours later, alien ships arrived at the ruins, the royal insignia of the Zarathi Empire painted in silver and blue. When they found the child alive, holding the hand of the dead human soldier, every warrior stopped moving. No one spoke, no one dared, because the symbol on her pendant, the mark of the royal bloodline, meant the impossible. A human had died protecting the royal heir of the Zarathi queen, and the war would never be the same again. A soft hum filled the air like the echo of distant stars. Captain Raylan Ward opened his eyes slowly. His body heavy, his mind blurred. The battlefield was gone, replaced by silver light and the sound of water falling somewhere nearby. He tried to sit up, pain flashed across his chest. Yet the wounds that should have killed him were gone. Only faint glowing scars remained. The ceiling above him shone with crystal patterns that moved like living light. Strange shapes floated around, gentle and bright like machines made of glass. When his vision cleared, he saw figures standing around him, tall and armored, eyes like molten gold. They were Zarathi, the enemy, yet none attacked. None spoke. Instead, they knelt, heads bowed low, their armor clicking in perfect unison. Raylan's breath caught, his heart racing. He looked down at himself, his armor repaired, his blood cleaned, and across his chest was the child's pendant glowing softly. "What is this?" he whispered, but his voice came out dry and cracked. One of the Zarathi, wearing dark robes and holding a long staff, stepped forward. "You are in the Hall of Queens," the alien said, voice deep like thunder. "The child you saved is the heir to the throne." Raylan blinked, trying to understand. "The child alive? After everything?" Before he could ask, a small figure ran into the room. It was her, the same girl he had saved, dressed now in fine robes of white and silver. Eyes full of joy and tears, she rushed to his bedside and grabbed his hand. "Protector," she whispered. "You came back?" Raylan didn't know what to say. He only stared, lost between confusion and disbelief. The Zarathi warriors shifted, murmuring among themselves, and the robed elder raised his staff for silence. "Human," he said. "You took 8 blades meant for royal blood. No Zarathi warrior has done such a thing in 1,000 years. Raylan tried to speak. "I didn't know who she was, I just couldn't let her die." The elder's eyes glowed brighter. "And that is why the queen herself demands your presence." The doors opened with a deep echo, and every warrior dropped to one knee. From the corridor came a tall figure draped in flowing silver cloth, her crown made of light. The queen of the Zarathi stood before him, her gaze sharp yet calm. "So this is the human who bled for my daughter," she said softly. "Rise, protector." Raylan forced himself up, his legs weak but steady. "I'm no protector. I'm just a soldier," the queen smiled faintly. "A soldier who ignored hate to save life," she replied. "Such a thing has power in this galaxy." The room grew silent as she approached him, her hand hovering over the glowing scars on his chest. "This mark will remain," she said. "You carry the life of my daughter, and the blood of your courage binds you to our house." The warriors around him whispered again, half in awe, half in anger. Raylan felt their stares, some full of respect, others full of pure hatred. He could sense the tension like static in the air. He turned to the queen. "If my being here brings trouble, I'll leave as soon as I can." Her eyes narrowed. "You cannot leave, not yet," she said. "You have changed our law, human, and there are those who wish you dead for it." The child held his hand tighter, her voice trembling. "Please don't go. They will hurt you." Raylan's mind spun. He had survived war, blades, death itself, and now found himself trapped in the heart of the enemy empire. He looked at the queen again. "Then what do you want me to do?" She stepped back, the air around her shimmering. "Prove that your heart is not accident but strength," she said. "Prove it in the trial of honor." Raylan frowned. "Trial?" The elder nodded. "A challenge where warriors show truth through battle, not words." The queen turned away, her voice echoing through the crystal hall. "If you survive, you may leave with our respect," she said. "If you fail, you die, and peace dies with you." As the doors closed behind her, Raylan looked around the silent room. Every pair of golden eyes burned into him. Testing, judging, waiting, he sighed, touching the glowing pendant on his chest, its light pulsing with warmth. The child smiled faintly through tears. "You will win." "Protector." Raylan gave a tired half-smile. "Kid, I don't even know the rules yet," but deep inside, a spark lit within him, the same fire that made him stand against 8 blades. If survival meant proving humanity's worth to the galaxy, then so be it. He clenched his fists, staring at the shining ceiling above. "All right," he whispered. "Let's show them what a human can do." The hall lights dimmed, the hum grew louder, and distant drums echoed like thunder across the alien city. The trial of honor had begun, and the story of the protector was far from over. The alien city of Zarath shimmered beneath a twin sun. Crystal towers stretched toward the clouds, and bridges of light connected them like veins of energy. Everywhere Raylan looked, he saw faces watching him, tall warriors, robed elders, and young ones whispering the same word again and again. Protector, they called him, though not all with respect. He had been given a chamber inside the royal spire, guarded day and night. Food appeared at his table, though he barely touched it. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was less a guest and more a prisoner in a gilded cage. Every time he walked through the halls, eyes followed him, some filled with curiosity, some with hate, and some, strangely, with admiration. Late that night, the child, Princess Lyra, entered his room quietly. Her small hands held the same glowing pendant that once saved his life. She looked up at him with worry. They say the trial of honor is not fair, Protector. Raylan knelt beside her, his voice calm. Nothing about war is fair, kid. But they want to see you bleed, she whispered. They want you gone. Raylan smiled faintly, though his eyes were tired. They already saw me bleed once, didn't they? Lyra frowned, clutching his arm. The one you will face, Varric. He hates humans. He thinks saving me was weakness. Raylan nodded slowly. Then I'll show him that mercy is strength. She looked confused. Mercy, she repeated softly, like it was a word she had never spoken before. He placed a hand over her pendant. It's when you have the power to kill, but you choose not to. At dawn, drums thundered through the city. The trial of honor was to take place in the Arena of Echoes, a colossal ring carved into the side of a mountain. Thousands gathered, warriors, nobles, even the queen herself sat high above the crowd. Raylan stood in the center, his armor repaired, but heavier than before. He held no gun, no rifle, only a short blade, curved like the alien style demanded. Across from him stood General Varric, 7 feet tall, armor shining with red energy, eyes burning with rage. This is no warfield, human, Varric growled. Here, your tricks mean nothing. Raylan met his gaze calmly. Good, he said. I was tired of tricks. The signal horn blared and the crowd roared as the duel began. Varric moved first, faster than any human Raylan had ever seen. The alien's blade slashed through the air, sparks flying. Raylan barely dodged, his body reacting on instinct, every nerve alive. The next swing came harder, knocking him to the ground. Cheers erupted from the crowd as blood splattered on the white sand. Raylan rolled aside, catching his breath. He had studied the way they moved, the rhythm of their attacks. Strong, predictable, prideful. He waited, reading every motion, every step, until Varric lunged again. This time, Raylan ducked, slamming his blade into Varric's side, not deep enough to kill, but enough to draw gasps from the crowd. The alien stumbled back, shocked. You dare, he shouted. Raylan stood tall. You said this was about honor, not hate, Varric snarled, charging again, his blows turning wild, angry, desperate. Raylan stepped aside, deflecting each strike, letting the general tire himself. The human's movements were slower but smarter, using patience where Varric used rage. And then, the opening came. With one swift turn, Raylan disarmed the general, sending his blade flying across the arena floor. The crowd went silent. The queen rose from her throne. Varric fell to his knees, beaten, his chest rising and falling. Raylan stood over him, blade in hand. He could end it. One strike and the duel was his, but instead, he threw the weapon aside, extending his hand. The silence was heavier than any roar. Even the winds stopped, the crystal banners frozen mid-flutter. Raylan's voice broke the stillness. Honor isn't about who kills, it's about who protects. Varric stared at the offered hand, disbelief in his eyes. Then slowly he bowed his head, touching his forehead to the ground. The human showed mercy, one elder whispered, and the crowd erupted, half in shock, half in awe. From the high seat, the queen's voice echoed, calm yet powerful. Let it be known, she said, the protector has passed the trial and in doing so, has redefined what it means to fight with honor. But even as the people cheered, Raylan felt unease, for among the crowd, hidden in the shadows, a figure watched with cold fury, a commander whose pride had been shattered by the human's mercy. His eyes glowed red as he whispered to his soldiers, the queen may call him protector, but to us, he's the spark of our downfall. As Raylan left the arena, exhausted but alive, the child ran to him, hugging his leg. You didn't kill him, she said, voice trembling. You saved him. Raylan smiled faintly. That's what humans do, kid. And as the alien crowd bowed to him for the first time, he didn't realize that far beyond the shining towers, a secret rebellion was already moving in the dark. The news of the humans' victory spread across the Zarathi Empire like wildfire. Every city, every station, every colony whispered the same name: Raylan Ward, the Protector. Some spoke his name with respect, others with rage, and many with fear, for in a single duel, a human had done what no Zarathi warrior dared: show mercy and still win. In the royal spire, banners were raised bearing the mark of unity. A human hand joined with a Zarathi crest. Children played pretending to be the Protector, while elders argued in disbelief. For the first time in centuries, the word honor had changed meaning, but peace never comes without enemies. Deep below the shining city, in the catacombs of stone and fire, a shadow council gathered. Holograms flickered, revealing armored figures, their faces hidden behind crimson masks. "The Queen weakens our blood," one growled. "She kneels before a human." Another hissed, "The people cheer him. They forget their own." The leader, tall and cloaked in black energy, slammed his hand on the table. "Then we remind them," he said, "with fire." Above, Raylan stood on a balcony overlooking the alien skyline. The twin suns glowed against the towers of glass. Painting the world in gold, Princess Lyra stood beside him, her small hand gripping his. "You changed them," she said softly. "They talk about peace now." Raylan smiled faintly. "Peace is fragile, Lyra. It breaks easily." She looked up, confused. "Then we fix it together." The Queen entered, her presence commanding even the air itself. "Protector," she said, "your words and actions have echoed beyond this planet." She handed him a holographic map, glowing dots representing fleets and colonies. "Some of my generals now refuse my orders," she continued. "They call themselves the True Blood, and they prepare for war." Raylan's jaw tightened. "Because of me." She nodded slowly. "Because you showed them their truth." Suddenly, alarms blared through the city. The sky outside darkened as massive ships entered orbit. The Queen's Guard rushed in. "Your Majesty, enemy fleet approaching, bearing the mark of the True Blood." Raylan looked up at the burning clouds. "Guess peace didn't last long," he muttered. Explosions thundered as plasma fire struck the outer towers, lighting up the skyline in crimson flame. The people screamed, ships fell, and chaos returned to the world that had only just tasted hope. The Queen turned to Raylan. "You know war better than any of us, Protector." He nodded, grabbing his repaired armor and weapons. "Then let's remind them why humanity survived extinction." Lyra tried to follow, but he placed a hand on her shoulder. "Stay with your mother," he said, "and don't stop believing." She hugged him tightly before he ran toward the armory, heart pounding with purpose. Moments later, Raylan led a squad of mixed soldiers, human volunteers and Zarathi warriors who had chosen to stand with him. Their armor bore both flags, glowing in blue and white. From the air docks, they launched into the burning sky, weaving through enemy fire. "This is it," Raylan shouted over comms. "They came to destroy unity. Let's make sure they regret it." The battle above the capital was like nothing ever seen before. Human tactics met alien precision. Drones swarmed and starships clashed in blinding bursts of energy. Raylan's fighter cut through enemy lines, taking hit after hit. Yet he refused to fall. Every strike, every maneuver was for the child who believed in him, and for the Queen who trusted a human heart. When the True Blood flagship appeared, massive and dark as a mountain, Raylan's scanners locked on. "That's our target," he said. "We take that down, this ends." His co-pilot, a Zarathi named Kayal, glanced at him. "That ship has 1,000 guns." Raylan smirked. "Good thing I brought 2. They dove through the firestorm, engines screaming, missiles cutting paths of light. Inside the flagship, the rebel leader watched the human ship charging straight at them. He sneered. Typical human, no strategy, just suicide. But Raylan wasn't charging blind. He was drawing fire, giving Kal's squad a perfect angle to breach the reactor. The explosion tore across the sky like a newborn sun. The rebel fleet shattered, debris raining down over the glowing city. When the dust cleared, Raylan's ship spiraled out of control, smoke trailing behind. He crashed just outside the royal tower, metal screaming as it hit the ground. The queen rushed to the wreckage, soldiers pulling debris aside. Lyra cried out, "Protector!" As she ran to him, Raylan coughed. Blood on his lips, but smiled weakly. "Still here." "Kid." The queen knelt beside him, eyes shining with tears and pride. "You saved our world again," she said softly. He looked up at the burning sky. "No," he whispered. "We saved it together." As the suns began to rise, their light touched the city's tallest tower, now bearing a new symbol. A circle of two hands. One human, one Zarathi, bound by light across the galaxy. The story spread, the duel that shook a world. And in the heart of the Empire, where hatred once ruled, hope had taken root, yet even in peace, somewhere far beyond the stars, a cold voice whispered, "If one human can change a world, imagine what humanity could do to the galaxy." The stars flickered as if listening, and destiny waited for its next move. The city of Zarath lay in ruins and light. Smoke rose from the shattered towers, and the air shimmered with the fading heat of battle. But the people were alive, united under one banner for the first time in their history. The human had done what centuries of rulers could not. He had made them stand together. Raylan Ward awoke in the healing chamber, his body weak but alive. The queen stood beside him, her armor scorched. Her crown cracked from the fight. "You rest now, Protector," she said softly. "You've carried enough burdens for a lifetime." Raylan tried to smile, his voice low. "A soldier never rests, Your Majesty. Not while enemies still breathe." The queen's expression darkened. "You are right," she whispered. "The true blood may be gone, but something greater stirs beyond our stars." Raylan frowned. "Another war. Perhaps," she said, "but not today." He turned his head to see Princess Lyra sleeping beside his bed, her small hand resting on his arm. The sight made his heart ache in a way no battle ever could. She had called him Protector, and somehow, that word had become larger than he ever imagined. To her, he was family. To her world, he was legend, but deep down, Raylan knew heroes never stay in peace for long. Days passed and the city rebuilt itself. Humans and Zarathi worked side by side, engineers, healers, and soldiers from both worlds repairing what hatred had destroyed. The story of the human who fought without hate spread across the stars. From barren moons to golden capitals, people whispered his name with respect. Some even prayed to him not as a god, but as a symbol of what courage truly meant. One morning, a royal messenger rushed into the spire, panic in his voice. "Your Majesty," he cried, "we've intercepted a signal. It's not Zarathi. Not human either." The queen turned pale. "Show me," she ordered. The hologram flickered to life, a strange language, harsh and rhythmic, repeating one phrase again and again. Raylan listened carefully, his face growing serious. "They're calling us trespassers," he said quietly. "And they're coming." The queen looked at him. "Another empire, another war," he replied, standing up slowly, his wound still healing. She placed a hand on his shoulder. "You don't have to fight this one." Raylan looked toward the stars outside the window. "I don't fight because I have to," he said. "I fight because someone must." Before the new enemy could arrive, Raylan gathered the mixed defense fleet, human ships with Zarathi vessels beside them. He addressed the warriors through the comms, his voice steady and calm. "Once, we were enemies," he said. "Now we fight as one, not for power, not for revenge, but for the right to choose peace." The fleet answered with a single roar that echoed across the void, and somewhere deep within the stars, something ancient stirred. As the first enemy signal blinked on radar, Raylan looked down at the pendant around his neck. Lyra's pendant, glowing bright with golden light. "She believed in me when no one else did," he whispered. "That's enough." He closed his visor, the light of 1,000 suns reflecting across his armor. "Let's make them remember," he said, his voice calm as fire. The battle that followed would be spoken of for generations. Ships vanished in light. Entire moons shook under the power of weapons unseen by any species before. Raylan's command ship took hit after hit, shields collapsing, systems failing. Yet his orders never wavered, his tone never broke. He fought not as a conqueror, but as a guardian, as a man defending both his worlds in the end. When his ship's reactor began to fail, he sent one final transmission to the Queen. "Your Majesty," he said, voice fading through static. "Promise me something. Anything," she whispered. Tears in her voice. "Teach them," he said. Teach them to fight for others, not themselves. And then the line went silent. A blinding light filled the sky as his ship exploded, taking the enemy flagship with it. Silence followed, a silence so deep that even the stars seemed to mourn. When the battle ended, only fragments of Raylan's ship remained, drifting among the wreckage, yet the pendant, that small crystal of light when it was found intact, floating above the debris, glowing softly. The Queen took it in her hands, her voice trembling. He is gone. But his spirit remains. Lyra, now older, stepped forward, holding the pendant close to her heart. Then I'll keep his promise, she said, and protect both our worlds. Years passed, and a statue was built in the center of the capital, a human soldier standing tall, one hand open in peace, the other holding a broken blade at the base. Words written in both languages read, "He came from Earth. He left as the protector of two worlds, and somewhere beyond the stars, where light meets shadow." The echo of a human's voice drifted through the void, not in anger, not in sorrow, but in quiet strength. "I am human," it whispered, "and I protect those who cannot protect themselves." The galaxies remembered, and the legend of the protector lived forever.